for attending our kickoff CIP meeting. We're very excited to get this subcommittee together for a number of reasons, but most importantly, I think what COVID has taught us is that we can never be prepared enough, right? Not just for today, but for the future. So I think any opportunity that we have to collaborate and figure out what are our needs now, but as those needs are changing, how are we going to meet them, and how will we be prepared for the future is really critical at this point. So I'm very thankful to you, John, for supporting this, because I know you have a lot of meetings that you attend, and you, Chuck, I appreciate your collaboration with us. It means a lot.
No problem.
And Chris and Alan, of course, because I know you guys are running back and forth to lots of meetings as well. So, but this is an important one, I think, and hopefully one that stays around for a while with good cooperation. So I don't necessarily think we have an agenda, right, John?
Nothing formal. It's just a couple bullet points based on 25 minutes of the Board of Ed explaining their capital improvements, and then 2 minutes for the town.
All right, Chuck, go.
I think probably what we wanted, the easiest, well, I mean, I guess we have some housekeeping matters first. I don't know if formally, John, these subcommittees have some type of chairperson, vice chair, or is there just general members?
At the moment, it's your committee. You're the one that formed it. If you want to appoint a chairperson or so on, we can always give it to Brian since he's not here.
I think we should do
the way
that.
it works.
Second.
Yeah. Well, I think for formalities, right, we probably need someone who's going to head the meetings up. So, why don't we go ahead and appoint someone to do that? And I know, Alan, you think you want to do that, or are you done with running meetings?
No, I have no problem with this. I mean, this falls right under finance with the person I sit on anyway, and have basically our second term on finance. So I'd be happy to.
All right, that's awesome. And then in terms of just setting the schedule moving forward, I believe Daniel said that the Tuesdays, was it? The fourth Tuesday, maybe? The fourth Tuesday of every month at 6:30 was available. So if that works, we could meet quarterly at that time.
So the next one would be the fourth Tuesday in January?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess what we were thinking is maybe we can just go through and identify some of the projects that we have coming up that we anticipate needing to fund over the next few years. I know that just going through the budget from 21 to 2025, it looks like there was $32 million that we're going to need to come up with to fund some of this stuff. So
depending on the total you're looking for or what schedule you're looking at, it could include some referendum monies that's in those totals. So it's not purely coming out of the general fund.
Okay.
So it could be something associated with like roads. So it could be $2 million that would come out of the road referendum.
Yep.
Check.
Okay, thank you. I know that Chris and I have talked a little bit off record about some of the projects that have been listed, like the pool, that we don't seem to fund, probably because it was so successful. Parks and Rec was so successful with getting that pool operating during COVID. And because it's such a good resource for the residents, especially if this is going to be around for some time, that might be something that we want to prioritize moving forward. And I was just thinking, John, before we look at, and you can tell us what's out there in terms of what needs to get done, is it possible that we could put together a schedule of funding sources that as things come up, we may be able to look to those guides and see where we can plug in projects, if there's grant money coming up or? Well,
it generally reflects any known funding sources that we receive. So if we, um, like if we're doing a road and we get LoSAP money like we did for Divot End Road, we'd put that project in, but then the funding source would be a grant from DOT. So we would reflect any known sources. We wouldn't put in anything, any grant that we didn't receive. It would be treated still as an unfunded source.
Yeah, no, that I understand. I think I was just speaking more generally, like if we can put together some type of list of where we can go to look for money so that we are prepared. Like I know, for instance, there was some state grant money over the summer. And I don't remember what it was for, but it was COVID related, and it had to, and it went out to small towns. And I guess that what I'm thinking is we don't always know what funding sources are available. So I'm just wondering, is there some type of directory or main source that?
I don't think there's a book you can go to and ask for the grant. Usually the grants are offered by the state, they come out, and then you'd have to apply for it. Okay. And depending on the department that's funding it, something like a small cities grant is a paper nightmare, as opposed to we got a few $1,000s from OPM for a cemetery, and that was like a quick grant, and then we got notice for it. And then the police grant was money that came in overnight that we found out about. But generally, it's the state would release, there's these grants, and then a number of towns would apply for it. Jim Salmi's on top of the road monies, and on the CROG committee that oversees the regional funding for roads, and we're usually get money from that pretty quickly because we usually have job-ready projects that we can get the funding for pretty quick. Oh, I'm going. Oh.
So, Lisa, just to follow up, I think I know the direction you're trying to go with some of this, and I think we've heard a lot from Rocky Hill residents over the last year or two, probably 4 years, as we put some bigger projects together, and we've gone out and had to do referendums and borrow money. And I think the general thing is residents seem to be tired of referendum out, I guess is the right word. So as much of these things as we can do within the confines of our operating budget, along with grants and other things, would be much easier for residents to handle. If we go to another referendum, I'm not sure what gets approved versus decisions on what we need more operational. And I think that's the importance of what we're looking at here a little bit, is trying to put the budget together so we could give it that 5-year look and start putting money aside as we can, and maybe not have to referendum.
Yeah, I think that probably sums it up well. I know, for instance, with the road repairs, we need to go out to referendum, and that's a big thing. So obviously you need to borrow money, but if year after year we can start putting aside a little bit of money for those things, that would be beneficial.
And I think perhaps getting back to the grant question, I know that we have people on who are monitoring the different grants, but one of the key phrases I think John used was shovel ready. So if we have projects that we know we need to do that aren't yet shovel ready, maybe because we need to make a smaller investment to develop a plan or something like that. So if the opportunity does arrive to maximize some of the revenue, we should probably take a look at that. We're not necessarily doing it all at once, but if we're looking at the next 5 years, try to get those on the books too. If there's something that would come up as part of a future budget request to do a plan or a design specs or something like that, we can try to get proactive about it as well.
Yeah, I think that's good, Chris, because I know, for instance, we were talking about the farm today, and we're taking that step by step, but right now really would be a good time to start planning what are we doing with the farm and what are the steps that have to take place so that when an opportunity for grant money comes up or some type of funding, that we're ready with something to present instead of waiting, So right now we're waiting for Mr. Straska to vacate the property and then we'll move on to our next step. But if we could maybe start conceptualizing what we want to do with that farm and, just get that on paper, like you said, I think that's one example of a bigger project.
And Chuck, just because you're the representative from the Board of Ed, I want to thank you for being on the call with us. But what usually we only get the opportunity to get together at budget time.
Yeah.
And, this is that opportunity to kind of build that relationship, and then we know what's coming. We could have those discussions, and going forward, hopefully make our budgets a lot easier because we've already had some preliminary conversations.
Right.
Obviously, you go back to your board, we'll go back to the councils, but I think that's important. I want to thank you for being, part of it as the board representative tonight.
No problem. And I think it's a good thing too. Like you said, the more we can get together on a more of an informal basis, have this, these discussions, I think, we get to know each other that much better and start to understand where each other are coming from and, put our best foot forward for what's best for the town.
Absolutely.
Great.
I mean, the projects that we, as far as our CIP goes, we've put together a draft proposal. Like you said, our board needs to review it, make any modifications, but I don't think there's any surprises at this point. I think there's a lot of it, you guys have seen and we've talked about. Upcoming, we have the West Hill HVAC equipment replacement that we have. Unfortunately, and these are the big projects, but unfortunately they all are pretty good size. We have the roof replacement at the middle school, GMS. We have the HVAC equipment replacement over at Stevens. Then we have the roof replacement at West Hill. Those are the big ticket items, and out a little bit further, I don't know where this discussion, we've had some preliminary discussions, but the science classrooms at GMS. But we've kind of put that out a little bit further and moved these other projects that I just discussed more, probably trying to do at least one a year, because like I said, they are larger projects from a dollar standpoint. So trying to spread those out. Unfortunately, both the roofs and the HVAC equipment is, we've gotten definitely our useful life out of those items. We can't complain about that. And but they are larger dollars and tougher to swallow. But, if we can try to space them out and do what we can, that's the game plan right now.
That would be an interesting thing for this committee to look at as well in terms of how those, I think we have that roughly sketched out in the CIP section of the budget, but how those align with municipal projects over the same time period. Because, Al, you mentioned being referendumed out. I do agree, but does it make sense to bundle some of those efforts, at least from the funding side, and then, incorporate that to other things that we have going on? Because we could potentially be looking at a lot of expenses, each year, both on the municipal side and budget ed, the Board of Ed. It sounds like each one of those projects, my guess is probably, we just did the roof at the new roof for at Stevens for around 600, which came on the low side.
Yeah, that came in way. Fortunately, that came in way under budget, which is nice.
But which is great, and that would be nice if it's the start of a trend. But each of these probably looks like it's between let's say 5 and 1.5 each of the items.
Yeah,
500,000 to 1.5 million.
To 2.4 is what we have.
So that's a lot. Yeah.
Right. On the roofs, we will get, if the state continues to provide us reimbursement, we will get reimbursements on the roof. Unfortunately, for the HVAC equipment, they will not reimburse us for that. So.
Chuck, just on the HVAC, I'm assuming that none of that qualifies under the COVID ventilation rule grants that are out there.
Yeah, not for that size. Pretty
No.
much. Yeah.
I figured it was worth a try.
Right. I know. Yeah, and you know, sometimes they do offer some pretty good energy credits. I mean, decent, but they, you know, it's not going to pay for a substantial part of it, but they do offer the energy credits. Right.
So Chuck, in your roof replacement plan, is Griswold next for next year?
West Hill would be what we're probably going to request for in next year's budget. Following that would be GMS. And the year after, right now anyway, unless the board changes, Stevens HVAC equipment would be in year 23, 24. And then the roof replacement at West Hill following that year.
Yeah, so it would be nice if we could sort of put together something that shows these side by side. And
yeah,
Another approach we took in the past is what we tried to do years ago is come up with a bottom line total for capital improvements and then work our way up for individual projects. So that say every year we appropriate $3 million as just an example for capital improvement projects for the next 5 years. Then in year one, we would do A, B, C, and D. Year two, we may do E, F, and G, and so on. So we have a sort of stabilizes the budget and the so-called mill rate effect on the capital improvement effect on the mill rate, and work that way, as opposed to doing a laundry list and then we may come up with like $10 million for next year, which would be hard to swallow.
So we do that, and we have something like, let's say we let's put $1 million in there, and then we have something like the roof on Stevens, which comes in under budget. We would just reallocate that to the non-reoccurring fund and kind of use that to projects next year. Is that how potentially that would work?
That's the one option. And then if you do it early enough in the budget year and you have the surplus, you could maybe reallocate it to another project. So if you do a fall project, it comes in under budget, maybe you can use the surplus to do a project in the spring, something like that, as opposed to wait until the end of the year and then rolling it into the non-reoccurring account and then allocating it to something at a future date.
did you want to say something, Chris?
No, that's that. I mean, it's the challenge with that is that, you know, with the mill rate, it's hard to see it going back down after we make that change, but it does seem to be perhaps less volatile for our folks in town.
No, the other nice thing, and I want to thank you guys. You know, we've established a nice relationship where it gives us an incentive too. If we are going to have a surplus at the end of the year, to be able to put that into the capital non-reoccurring, you know, I think that's beneficial to use towards some of the smaller projects that may come up, or to build the fund balance, you know, the capital fund.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's worked out really nice. It really has.
Absolutely. Thank
Chuck,
you.
your projects are kind of, I don't want to use the word we almost bundled, but, you know, 2 roofs, 2 HVAC projects. If somehow money came together, is there a cost savings by doing 2 different buildings' roofs in the same summer and then going the next year and doing 2 HVAC units, or vice versa?
It's tough to say. There could be some benefit to that, you know, for the contractors as far as getting better pricing. What
Right.
that dollar value may be, I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean,
The problem is we always have maybe 2 to 3 months in the summer to do all this work.
right.
Plus, we're in line with other schools that are competing for contractors as well. So it's generally, we try to have everything in place so that as soon as they let the kids out, the contractor's on site the next day.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, I mean, one issue that we typically run into is our budget doesn't go into place till July 1.
Right.
And it's tough to, if we had money available April to go out to bid, let's say, then you could hit the ground running. And just giving that some thought as far as combining different projects, you might be able to, I don't know, we'd have to discuss it more from get everybody's input, but I don't know if it would make sense or not to 1 year combine the projects, buy the materials, and then next year schedule the work. You know, you may get a better price by combining the materials needed for, if you were to combine projects in 1 year lump sum versus doing them separate. I'm not sure.
It's just some things to, creative ways to try to come up
Right.
with stretching the dollar.
Right.
While I'm not a fan of, keep continuing borrowing, interest rates are almost historical lows at this point.
Yeah.
So when you are borrowing, it's not as painful. But we still got the increase in the mill rates affecting. We have to start paying them back.
Yeah.
So Chuck, you have a 5:30 meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, we don't want to keep you till that very last second. So I think, unless anyone has something urgent that they want to talk about right now.
The only question I had was, as we think about putting together this list of priorities and making things as, I guess, shovel ready as possible, is there any work that needs to be done? Like, are the plans ready to go, or is there more work that would need to be done on, like, I know we're not going to have everything captured, but is there more work to be done? So if funding became available somehow, there's a magic grant, who knows? Like, are we ready to go, or is there more work that needs to be done on some of those key projects to get us there?
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. We have some things to button up, but we try to do that. We try to build in the front year where we do get the architect and plans developed, and then the following year where we can actually go out to bid and secure the project. So we try to do that when possible.
Thanks.
Chuck, and these air conditioning projects be handled the way we did Griswold School, like over, didn't we do it over like a 3-year period?
Yeah, that worked out really well for
Yeah.
GMS. It takes some coordination and having the right contractor on board, but you got to do some upfront planning, but that worked out really well.
So could something like West Hill be done that way? Do you have wings to do like classrooms and then the cafeteria, gymnasium, and then?
Yeah, and that's what we did actually, to be honest. We did that a little bit this summer. There were some rooftop units at West Hill that were in the initial project. And, with some of the, we put a couple rooftop units on basically this summer. So I'd have to get into deeper discussion with Ron to see how the rest might be able to be broken out. To see if we could do it that way.
Well, I think that was a great start for 25 minutes.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to our future meetings.
Absolutely. We'll see you in January.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
right.
Chuck.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.